Um, okay, yeah, mine should be the last
I'm sorry, Justin. What did you say?
one. Mine should be the last one on there.
Well, this one here, right? No,
Oh,
that's a different
Justin.
Justin.
Okay. Mhm. Is it there at the bottom?
Ah, oh no, that's Kelby.
Let's see, because I submitted it, so it should be on there.
Hold on, you might be in the other section.
Okay, because that looks like my class there, but
It does.
um, try refreshing the discussion.
Here we go. All right. Uh, so clearly Jim Carrey,
Mm-hmm.
and you love his characters.
Love Jim Carrey, man.
Said, I don't believe in hope. Hope is a beggar. Hope walks through the fire. Faith leaps over. Huh. Um, this is amazing work. It looks really, really good. You've totally grasped the idea of grayscale. You've got a solid composition that is self-contained and will work really well on a shirt. Um, what do the limousines represent?
So in Ace Ventura, The Mask, and Dumb and Dumber, those were like consistent in his films for some reason. Um, Not sure why he's always had that representation in there, but I figured it'd be kind of cool to.
I think it had, yeah, I was thinking that maybe at one point he was a driver.
Yeah, the scene where he has the kind of bowl cut, the bottom one.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, his head was hanging out the window in that scene of the limousine. So I thought it'd be kind of cool to, because I didn't know another way to really kind of taper that off at the bottom, so it won't disappear as if they're just portraits just floating. So figured limousines would be kind of cool to add in. So
Yeah, this is very nice. Um, I don't really have too much to offer you in terms of critique on the grayscale because you've seemed to nailed it.
mhm.
Uh, even your choice of grays has a decent contrast and seems to work. The flesh tone, the way you did the hair, you clearly are comfortable with Illustrator, huh?
Yes, very much so, man.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorites there.
So awesome job. Now, when you watch the video about how to colorize this should go really quickly and easily for you. It
Mhm.
doesn't look like you have any brush effects or anything like that. You might want to just expand everything before you jump into that. And
Yeah.
keep in mind that the background here, this white
Mhm.
surrounding this, counts as one of the colors. So
Okay,
whatever color his teeth are, that should also be the background color. Just
for sure.
use that as a guide.
Okay.
But awesome job.
Well, thank you, man.
I'm
I
gonna do a little
appreciate
screenshot of this for one of my colleagues.
it. Okay. He's one of my favorites, man, hands down.
Awesome. All right. Well, you're
Thank-
welcome to hang out. I'm going to go through everybody else's work. Uh,
okay.
if you have stuff to do, I understand. So,
Yeah, I'll probably just hop on off since no one else is on. So,
all right. We'll see you, Justin.
okay, my pleasure to meet you, sir.
Good to see you.
All right
All right. Other Justin,
now.
Dave Grohl.
Right, that looks pretty cool, man.
Yeah, this looks great. There's some good things here.
Mhm.
Uh, Stylized hair. It almost looks like tribal tattoos, kind of. This is really awesome work. I would
Yeah.
love for you to be able to use your light gray to maybe create a little more shape and dimension, like maybe part of the nostril, underneath the eyes, something to give me a little more than he's like just ghost white. Um, Likewise, the shirt, there's a lot of black here, and this big void sort of attracts attention. Maybe if you took your dark gray and created some folds, some highlights on the folds, that would be good. Also the hand, like I would take your light gray and maybe do some shapes, you know, creating some shadows to create some dimension in the hand so it's not so flat. Overall, the composition is really good. And this is like 90% there. So really just a few little things to make it come out better. I do like the diamond shape. I'm not sure if it's very symbolic, but it's working given the position of his body and hand and all that. All right, Alyssa, your daughter, this is very good work. It's, let's see, what's behind her? Map of Sicily, okay. All right, so the map of Sicily, I'm not a big fan of maps usually. Maybe that could be sort of the containing shape that crops the bottom of the portrait so that she's just not sort of cut off arbitrarily like this. That might be a good way to go. And you know, some of these shapes feel a little untended, like you need maybe to smooth some of these jagged places out and simplify some of the shapes. But you've got an awesome start to this. It looks like the right number of grays, and you're using the grays expertly. So these little cat ears, my daughter has the same ones. I know exactly what those look like. But see, like that, this little white shape feels out of place. Just little things to sort of clean it up. And use that map of Sicily as your cropping shape. Good job. All right. Sarah, you're doing Lauren Daigle. This looks really good, great portrait, good composition, too many grays, and it looks like you're using opacity to change this type so that everything sort of shows through. For this assignment, you cannot use opacity at all. You just want everything to be 100%. When you do this, it gets really confusing. Now, all of a sudden, you've got 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 different grays there. To replicate that in screen printing, you'd have to have all these different colors, and that's kind of what we're going for. So I think this will work if it's just knocked out white, or maybe even in your light gray. The hair is pretty good, some good shapes going on there. And this just sort of does look a little messy, so I would consider maybe just making it white. You might want to put some sort of shape on the side of her head so that you have a separation between the background. Not necessary, but you might try that as sort of a technique to see how that works. But overall, this is really good work. All right, Destiny, this is your father. So it's a full body pose, and clearly he's in fatigues. You've given yourself a hugely complicated task of trying to create the camo, which really isn't sort of the essence of what you want to capture. You want to get his face, I would think. So, yeah, I understand why you want the camo, but I would focus on his face and maybe simplify it. The background, let's see. A flag, yeah, flags are hard to do, you know, but you could do that. Right now, it feels like a lot of confusing shapes. So what I would encourage you to do is almost like sit down with pencil and paper and just sort of thumbnail out, like, what are the essential elements you want to have in this illustration to convey what you want about your father, so that you're not rendering, like, for instance, parts of his weapon or little details that maybe would take you a long time and aren't really sort of crucial to, you know, your concept, what you want him to look like. because right now it feels like you've got like a week's worth of work just getting the camo right, which is challenging. So, all right, Catherine, you're doing your husband. Some of the same issues as I was just talking about. You've got a lot of details in his uniform, his clothing, and not enough detail maybe in the face. I would maybe simplify this part of it and give more detail, put some light in the eye, more um, um, finer detail in the face so that you can see his face a little better. The the tools, the style of this is really good. You've got a great style overall, but I would just sort of try to focus a little more on the face. And well done, Giant Jet. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff here, but I just sort of focus a bit. Never outdone. Nice. All right. Rachel, we're trying Edgar Allan Poe. This looks like a photo that's just sort of been brought into Photoshop. You want to have intentional shapes. You could use this sort of, looks like you composed it yourself, which is great. But now what I want you to do is to pen tool out these shapes rather than have sort of photographic, all this sort of dirt in here. Make it your own style. Right now it looks auto-traced. Probably has too many grays as well. So do what you can to sort of clean that up a bit and be more intentional with all the shapes that you're creating in the illustration. Some of this has like way too much detail. This still has the watermark from the stock photo place where you grabbed it from. So you don't want to do that. You can use things as a reference, but you just want to like plop a photo into a stock photo that you haven't purchased into your portrait. So I think you've got a concept that's interesting here. You just have to execute it in your own style, own way using Illustrator. Yeah, this is getting better here. All right, so yeah, again, how much detail do you want to go into with all these items? How do you simplify it? How do you create a cohesive style? And I would focus on the face first and figure out these other items second. All right, Kelby, Robin Williams, the genie. The face is pretty well done. So this background is a gray. There's a light gray. I guess that's right. Looks like you have the right number of grays. The wispy smoke done in white, gray, and black, I feel like that's not really working. Maybe just create one shape and you could create, so for instance, if you created a light gray shape, you could use white as a highlight to sort of create a billowy cloud shape, you know, and maybe the dark gray as sort of the shadowy part of it to create a little more shape and dimension. So it looks more like a cloud. And all of it works. Let's see. Flubber. Yeah, I would never have get that unless you told me, but good rendering on the face. And this is the same thing again. Yeah. All right. And Justin, we did. All right. Next up, we're going here. Decoya, Barack Obama. Excellent work. Really good. It does look a lot like his famous photo, so I'd be concerned a little bit about creativity there. I know you're adding elements here. Now, like I said, excellent work. Couple of little things. This uneven spacing here and here, easily fixed, right? If you just align these ovals up so that you don't have that kind of odd spacing. I might take your light gray and your dark gray are too close in value. You might take your dark gray down darker a little bit, and that might help things. But right now they're not separating quite enough. the stars. Now I want to bring this up. So a lot of people like to use stars, and in Illustrator it's so easy to create a star. So I'll just demo here a couple things. So if you go to the star tool and you just drag out a star, you get this kind of star. Now this is just a symmetrical 5-pointed pentagonal, whatever. But what you want is the USA star. So if the star, you select the star tool and hold down the Option key and drag out, you did a different kind of star. Do you see the difference here? That's just holding on the Option key. That's more like the United States flag star, whereas this is just a shape, a pentagonal shape. The other thing you can do with this to create your oval is turn it into a pattern brush, and I'll show you how that works. So with this star selected, I'm going to drag it into the brush palette, and I say, yes, I want a pattern brush, and the options come up here. I'm going to add some spacing. I'm going to put 100% spacing so we get it out. Make sure that colorization is set to tints, and that enables you to change the color of it when you get into your color relationship. So say OK. Now, with that brush selected, if I make a oval here, I don't want it to have a fill, just a stroke. And then I select that brush. Do you see how it makes the stars go around the circle for me? It's actually kind of fun. It's sort of bending them a little bit. There we go. But it's a little easier than what you're doing there, and it gives us kind of fun star effect. So try that out. See if you like it. Next up, Kirsten. Oh, that's my sister's name. Kirsten, you're doing your mom, Laura. Now, this photo, she's got a cheerful, great expression. I understand why you want to use that. So key thing is, what is your overall composition going to be? So you just don't want to replicate her face. Are you going to have containing shape, extra items in the background, a particular style that you're going to use for this? So think about that. And you want to capture her great smile and all that. So that's kind of the focus. Now, this photo has sort of poor contrast. You know, it's a little bit dark. So I would bring it into Photoshop, and you can, you can create a filter, change the, let's see, I'm going to duplicate this layer, and I'm going to go to levels. And if you see this curve, right, there's like a bit of a spike right here. This is the white, and that's probably all this reflection, which has nothing to do with her face. So I would bring this in a bit, and her face brightens up a little bit. You're creating a little more contrast, so you play with it a little bit, bring up the blacks a little, like that. So now you've got better contrast, okay. Now what I would do, I'm going to merge these two layers. Merge layers, yeah, E. Now I would go in and use a different filter here called Posterize. Posterize will break it down into a specific number of colors. So if you use that, Posterize, and you say 4 colors, this gives you an idea of what your hero portrait, where you're headed. So light gray, dark gray, black, and white. Now this doesn't look so great, but it is a reference for you to sort of figure out where your map of gray, lights, and darks are. So you can look at that and say, well, I want to add some darks over here on the far side of the nose. I probably want to add a little more light in the eyes, separation of her hair from her forehead and things like that. but this is sort of gets you on the path of figuring out how to block this out. Now, obviously, you just don't want to copy this, but if you use something like this as a guide, it could get you started in the right direction. But first off, as I said, think about your concept composition. What's it actually going to look like? All right, next up, Jennifer, your dad. This is a wonderful, smiling, happy guy. It looks pretty good. I feel like the maps, sort of the map of light and shadow is a little off on this. There might be some dark gray under the nose. I don't know if he has a goatee or something, but you're still sort of working through this a bit. The black, using black line work really effectively on the eyes and nowhere else. Like this line kind of feels arbitrary. You know, you might use your black in other areas to sort of define the face more. Clearly this is a work in progress. So you might be getting there right now. I hope you're doing well with this, but I think you're off to a good start. You could add elements to the background. I mean, it's a little weak on concept right now, just a frame, but it's got a style to it, so that's helpful. All right. Lakendra, yes. So I see you're sort of struggling with some of the same issues. I like the composition, and I think you've got some good things going on here, but I would encourage you to do the same thing with Photoshop with your photo reference and see if you can break down the light and shadow a little more so you can sort of map it out more correctly with the face, because right now it feels like you're struggling with some of these shapes. The eyes seem pretty good. This background element, I don't know what that is. The fist bump, okay. So hands are hard to do, but you can do it. Right now, this is too complex. You've got some white line work, some gray shadows blocking out shapes. You need to think about, so line work can be a reference tool as you build in shadow and grayscale, or line work can be shadows as they are here in some of the eyes of Jennifer's work. So you got to figure out, what are your lines representing? Are they shadows or are they a guide to add something? Keep it simple on the clothing and focus on the face. Some of the hair feels a little complex. You know, you could just add a few indications of highlight. It's got a touch of gray, and then leave the rest to the imagination. That might work. So I hope you're doing well with this. You're off to a good start. So, all right, that's all the work we've got for today. Make sure and try to attend these discussions. This is a great way to talk to me about anything that you've got that you're trying hard to deal with, and get some one-on-one feedback on your work. So, all right, I'll be back on tomorrow at noon, so I hope to see more work then. Talk to you later.